On today's episode of the Wild Party Podcast, I chat with Christy Clement, founder of Vashon Island Coffee Dust, a woman-owned, values-driven brand bringing joy and purpose back to the coffee ritual. After a career in engineering and IT consulting, Christy created Coffee Dust as a healthier alternative to flavored syrups, blending real spices like cinnamon, cocoa, turmeric, and cayenne into a natural sugar-free coffee enhancer. We talk about how working from home during the pandemic sparked the idea for Coffee Dust, the early days of testing blends in her kitchen, and the journey from curiosity to community as she built a mission-driven business grounded in sustainability and giving back. Let's get the party started. Welcome to the Wild Party Podcast, where we celebrate the visionaries behind vegan, ethical, and sustainable business. In each episode, we'll dive deep into their journeys, uncovering the why behind their mission-driven business. I'm your host, Stefanie LaHart. Tune in with me for passionate discussions about overcoming challenges, innovative marketing strategies, and the power of using business as a force for good. So whether you're an entrepreneur seeking guidance or a conscious consumer wanting to support impactful brands, join us as we explore the stories behind the businesses that are changing the world for the better. Let's get the party started. Today, I am super excited. My guest on the show is Christy Clement, and she is the founder of Vashon Island Coffee Dust. Now, it is a woman-owned, values-driven brand that is reimagining how we spice our coffee and doing it naturally without any of the weird sugars and guar gum that seem to be in everything. Now, Christy actually had a successful career in engineering and IT consulting, and she set out to create a healthier, more intentional alternative to these flavored syrups that we were seeing on the market. And she made these incredible blends of spices using stuff like cinnamon and cocoa, cardamom and cayenne. And that's what's really actually in the coffee dust, which I love. I love that I can pronounce words and I'm not like, what is this in my coffee? Now, from curiosity to community building and a commitment to doing good, Christy is proving that a business can be both joyful and responsible, one sprinkle at a time. So, Christy, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Stephanie. I'm so glad to be here.
Christy, this is exciting for me. Okay, I will just let you know, I was late to the coffee game. I actually didn't even start drinking coffee till I was like 40 years old. I
Me
was
neither.
I was always
We're
the tea girl. Yeah. And the only reason I started drinking coffee is because when I started training for marathons, we were training so early. Now, I live in LA, but for people that don't know this, early mornings can get very chilly here. And I'm talking like sometimes we would start out running and it would be like 40 degrees. I'm not even kidding. And, being in LA, you were just never prepared for that. And somehow along, like pretty early on, I guess we would have coffee at our meetups. And for some reason, I must have tried it. And I found that it warmed me up like nothing else. And I swear that's how I started because it literally warmed me up enough to start running at like 5 a.m. in LA when it was 40 degrees out. And then I have to tell you, it took me a while to develop my palate for it because I found it very bitter. But then, of course, I got into the whole thing of like, trying flavors and I was like obsessed with something like hazelnut coffee at one point.
of course.
But now we're having a moment, especially on social media, where there are just nothing but endless coffee feeds, right? And they're showing all these like really intricate and very complicated concoctions. And let me tell you, I'm watching all the videos and I'm not making any of that stuff ever because I don't like sweet coffee. And here I'm introduced to you who literally solved all my problems. So take me back to the beginning, Christy. Where did this delightful coffee dust come from? Because it's actually just a spice blend that adds so much to coffee and a very natural and in a very natural and vegan way. So tell us the story. Christy, how did you start out?
Well, so like you, I was a late to the game coffee drinker. So I think I started drinking coffee when I was 42. It was during COVID. And, I would drink it once in a while. You'd go to a coffee shop with a friend and you wouldn't want to feel left out. And so I'd go get, some sugary, froofy thing just filled with cream and sugar. That's the only way that I could drink coffee because I found, same as you, I found it to be very bitter and it wasn't something that I was interested in. But during COVID, my husband and I had both traveled for work previous to that. And so we found ourselves at home with lots of extra time on our hands. And we started this tradition of hot tubbing every morning and with coffee. And, and at first I was just like, yeah, I'll do the coffee thing with you. That sounds good. And I filled it with cream and sugar like I would going, once a month or whatever to a coffee shop. But as it became a daily ritual for me, I was like, I cannot put all this crap in my body. And I don't know, a couple of months after I started drinking, I think my friend Kim introduced me to the idea of putting spice blends in coffee. And immediately I was like, oh, I can drink this without all of the other crap. And so I took her recipe. I started playing around with other blends. I found ones that I loved. And as work started picking up, kind of as COVID was getting over, I was like, all right, I don't have time to make this. I'll buy it from somebody else. And nobody else did it. And I thought, I guess I have to start a company. So I did.
And that's truly how so many entrepreneurs start a business. They're like, oh, I found a need. Nobody else is doing it. I think I'll jump in and do that. And, it's funny because it seems so simple. It's just adding spices. But yeah, we can all go into our spice cabinet and simply dump some cinnamon in it. But then you get bored of that pretty quickly. So you took it a step further where you actually did these really interesting and unique blends, which let me tell you, I am the girl that turmeric in everything. So when I saw, yeah, that you had the one that was the let me tell you which one's my favorite one. It's the Captain's one. Wait, is Captain's one with turmeric? Definitely
Captain's has turmeric,
helpful.
but Healthful has more turmeric in it. And it has black pepper, which paired together is what you need for it to be an anti-inflammatory.
Yeah, and I loved both of those immediately. You were so
Yep.
nice enough to, your team sent me a sampler package, so I got to try them all, and I was like, yes, this is what I've been searching for. Because, like I had said earlier, I'm like, I see all the Instagram feeds, people are making these elaborate drinks, and I'm telling you right now, I'm not making any of them. I will watch all the videos, but I'm not doing that. And also, being a vegan, I'm not adding cream, I'm not adding all this other
Right.
stuff. And yes, I will add oat milk if I'm making a latte for myself, but even at that point, I didn't want to add sugar. Like I'm just not big into sweet drinks like that. So to have a little bit of flavor, I was very excited. I was like, oh, this really gives me, that different feeling and allows me to change up my coffee now. Because yes, I do have a cup in the morning and I'll usually have a latte in the afternoon. So that's kind of my thing. But I'm still also very much a tea girl. I would just put that out there. So with that said, when you guys were deciding, you and your husband were like, hey, we could probably do this. What was the next step for you? Because, it's one thing to say, I could potentially create this product. It's another thing to start sourcing and figuring out your ingredients. So, how did you get into then the spice business?
Good question. So, I mean, looking into it, I had been looking for a company to start. I had started an IT company in the past, and it was fun, and I liked working for myself. And so this felt like okay, not a huge jump. It wasn't. While it was a jump from IT to food, at least I had started a company before. And I think, man, I figured out that I needed to test it out, right? So at first, even before doing things like getting permitted, I just wanted to figure out, are people interested in this? And so I posted on Facebook on our local Vashon community page and just said, I've created some different blends. I'm thinking about making this a product. I would love to just give it away to some people so that you can, and if you promise to give me feedback, I will give it to you for free. Because everybody in the entrepreneurial world says, don't just get feedback from your friends and family because they will tell you it's amazing and it might not be. And I got way better feedback from the randos that I sent. And I like drove around the island, and just was dropping coffee dust off. And I got great feedback. Some of it was, yes, we love this, but some of it was, well, when we popped the top off, then it wasn't like a screw top tin like it is now. It was a little square tin. And when we pop the top off, it aerates all the spices and it gets in my nose, and the cayenne really doesn't do well with that. And so, I I got enough feedback that I said, okay, I can kind of iterate on the packaging, but I knew also that people were interested in this. And so the next step after that was I could sell it at the farmer's market. And then I started having to figure out how to get permitted and how to really actually make sure that I was legal in a food business way.
Yeah, you definitely do have to fill out all of the permits and make sure it's legal,
Yeah.
especially in the food-based business. You know, a lot of people think like, oh, I can just have an idea and bake stuff in my home and then sell it. And that's not actually legal. You in many cities, and I think LA is the same, you have to have what they call an industrial grade kitchen to do certain things. So
Yep.
when you were starting out, let's talk about the blends first, because you have really unique flavor blends in there. How did you go about first, figuring out which flavor profiles you wanted to do? Was it just you and your husband at home tasting different things? And then how did you actually figure out the measurements you needed? And then beyond that, how did you start sourcing the spice product? Because spices are not equal, and we know that.
Yes, that's true. That's true. So the blends themselves have morphed over time. I knew I wanted somewhere in the neighborhood of 6 blends because I didn't, I we could do so many, but I didn't want to have to be overwhelming in terms of choices for our customers. And so 6 felt like it had a good variety but not too many that people would get analysis paralysis. And 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 really, I wanted a couple of cocoa based ones. And when somebody suggested I put cayenne into my coffee, I was like, that sounds like a terrible idea, but I am willing to try anything. And it turns out I'm completely addicted to our cocoa and cayenne blend, which we call Hot Mama, because it's like, unexpected and it wakes you up faster than the caffeine and all sorts of things. So I think some of it was I had some flavor profiles that I had a sense of. Turkish coffee was another one that I kind of wanted to emulate. And so we had a flavor called Exotica for a while. It didn't do very well, I think, because people don't really know what cardamom is or what it tastes like. And so it just didn't sell well. But when we would taste test it, people loved it. So over time, we've kind of morphed and figured that out. We've replaced blends. We did a March Madness. We've done a couple of March Madness of coffee dust flavors where we have people submit ideas. And our cocoa calm flavor actually came out of that. Somebody submitted like a cocoa and lavender, and it rose to the top of the brackets. And that is the one that replaced the cardamom one, the cardamom based one. So it's really been just kind of experimentation with a little bit of strategy in terms of like number and breadth of flavors. And then in terms of, let's see, you asked about like how do we start making it and get a commercial kitchen. Um, yeah, that was a whole thing. We couldn't make it at home because we knew from the beginning that we were going to sell over state lines, and so we couldn't do a cottage permit. We needed to get a commercial kitchen. And fortunately, my community is amazing, and our local senior center, which is a mile from my house, has a commercial kitchen that they would rent out after hours for $25 an hour. So it was like it would be us and the Bridge Club at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. We'd be in the kitchen, and the Bridge Club would be in the big other area. And it was such a great way to prove out, like, does this make sense? And we have since moved into our own facility, but just what an amazing resource. And so I'd encourage anybody thinking about this. You don't have to go build out your own commercial kitchen right away. There's, churches and senior centers. There's, places that do just this too, that kind of incubate startups if you need a commercial kitchen.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes we get a little afraid. It's like, oh, a commercial kitchen, that sounds very big and official. But really, just what it means is that it's gone through the health testing and the standards testing that you need to make sure that, the foods that are coming out of the kitchen are safe. Because, listen, we might think our home kitchens are clean, but they are not. We get used to a certain level of cleanliness, myself included. But
Yeah.
anyway, going back to the actual spice blend. So you have your idea, you have your blends intact. Where did you start sourcing your spices?
Yeah.
Because here's the thing, as we all know at this point, if you just sprinkle cinnamon into anything, it tends to float on the top. But yours blends are a very, very fine dust, hence the name coffee dust. So how did you go about finding, first of all, the actual sourcing ingredients you wanted to use? And then how were you able to make it into this fine dust that really does blend with the coffee so well?
Yeah, cinnamon is what they call hydrophobic. I know this from my chemical engineering like days. It wants to it is a detractor from water basically, which is why it often doesn't blend in very well. So you're exactly right that it's that really fine grinding that matters. And honestly, when I first started, I was just looking for where can I get some bulk spices to test. Again, it was about testing and experimentation. And I got spices from a few different places, but one of them was honestly like webstaurant.com as just like, okay, bulk spices, but let me try it and see if it's fine enough. And it happened to be. And then since then, we've, gone to other spice importers and partners and things like that. But that's a huge requirement for us is that we can get spices ground so finely. We don't do it ourselves. We look for partners who do that.
Yeah, and have you found that there's different flavor profiles between different spices? Like, I guess just depending on the region you get them. So, like, do you get cinnamon from a certain, location as opposed to others? Because you're like, wow, this just has a different flavor that seems to work better with the coffee.
There, in some senses, yes, there's two different kinds of cinnamon. And so we use cassia instead of the other one, which I'm forgetting. I'm blanking on the name of it right now. But I haven't gone to the depth of, a particular country of origin or anything like that yet. I would love to. And that is on my future roadmap is really like go visit farms and really get to know the people who are producing this stuff and be able to tell that story from the ground all the way to your coffee cup. But we haven't gotten there yet, but we will.
Yeah, and that sounds definitely something that would be very in line with your company because as I'd also read about you guys, you give 10% of your proceeds to charity. So what was it that made you want to, I think, bake that right into or mix that, should we say, mix that right into your business from the get-go? Because I do hear a lot of businesses always giving lip service to that after they kind of have set up the business, but it seems to be that was your initial idea from the beginning that you wanted to have a give back factor of this.
It absolutely was. It absolutely was. I mean, I think that's really important for every organization. And I grew up in my family as we got to, we were fortunate enough to have enough money that we could give it away. And we volunteered a lot. And it was a sense of kind of acts of service back to our communities. And that is just something that has been ingrained in me from day one with my family and from my parents. And so that was a no-brainer to me that like, okay, this is what we're going to do. 10% feels doable. And frankly, I think it's easier to do when you do it from the beginning. You don't get used to those other profits, being able to like, be your cash flow for the next year or anything like that. You just like, we know 10% is going off to charities that are, and the way that we choose it too is fun. Our team chooses who we like. This is so fun. At our holiday party every year, everybody brings in one charity that they would like as that they nominate, and then the team votes on where should that money go, which is super fun. I enjoy that.
That is such a great idea to get the team involved like that. And it also gives them a way bigger buy-in to the whole idea of it that, hey, we're giving 10% of the proceeds away. They're like, yeah, okay, that's fine because I got to pick who gets it. So it's awesome being a value-based business. I totally support that. And myself, it's baked into my business as well. I'm always giving money away to my favorite charity, which is PETA. So with that said, during your business growth, then, it was all self-funded and you've gotten to a certain level now, where you actually have a website, you're doing some, national shipping and things like that. What have been some of the business challenges that you've run into starting what, we would call like at first a home-based business and then making it larger and scaling it?
Yeah, I mean, we have been fortunate in that we've grown sort of incrementally and not by leaps and bounds. And so our scaling has been able to keep up with that. At first I was shipping everything out of my basement. And frankly, we would store everything in my basement. Uh, and our entire house smelled like cinnamon. Um, but over time, I got some help from a friend. I was going on vacation and he helped me do shipping while I was gone. And it was like, hey, you want a side gig doing shipping for Coffee Dust? And so now Danny is our shipping queen. And like, he does all things shipping. And it just sort of grew into that. And over time, I was blending everything at the senior center and packaging it, and then, found like who needs a few hours of work. It's a fun side gig. Everybody that works for Coffee Dust is like very part-time, me included. And everybody else tends to do like 5 to 15 hours a week. I try and be half, three-quarter time. And so it just like over time, partially because I had another job for a long time. I didn't quit my IT consulting job until May of this year. And so I sort of had to find a way to delegate it out to other people and have people give me some help, which was a good forcing function for me. It was good practice.
Yeah, definitely. And sometimes it's so hard to delegate because you're always like, no, I'll just do it myself because I'm like that all the time. I'm like, I'll just do it myself because it's so hard to explain to people what I actually want. But you do find as you scale, you do have to delegate or you're not going to grow. Now, with that said, you're actually doing wholesale as well. What does that look like, and how do you partner with these different wholesale companies, or how do you get the word out? So it's one thing to have, your product through your own website, but then how do you really expand, get it into wholesales or potentially even into retail? What does that look like for you?
Yeah, so we find that our best partners are gift boutique kinds of shops, because they tend to have a smaller amount of things in the shop. Coffee dust needs to be explained. People don't know what it is when they pick it up. And so having somebody around who, they've tried it and they love it and they use it, it's like a little bit of a sales extension of our company, which is beautiful. So I find those people two ways. Number one, I'm on Fair, which is a wholesaling platform. So like boutique and gift places can find us. And then I also do a lot of reach outs to local places, or, I have a friend that travels and, saw a shop that Coffee Dust would be great in, and they'll send me info, and then I'll go pitch them. So that works out well. And I'll often send out some free samples so that they can give it a try and test it out. But yeah, it sells great in some places, and in other places that maybe don't, that just aren't as into it. Maybe they'll order it a couple of times and not again. But I have a lot of wholesale customers that, or retail shops especially, who order wholesale, and just they're a fabulous partner. So it's fun to do. And then once in a while, I'll go demo at those shops as well if they're local.
Yeah, I can definitely understand how it needs a little bit of explaining. For me, it did as well. And also then
Mhm.
figuring out how to mix it correctly. I did find with one of those a little battery operated whisks that I could get it really mixed in there, which is great, which I recommend to anyone. I mean, they're so cheap. I don't even know how I lived without one before, but now I use it for everything. But really work for the coffee. Now back to your packaging. So I'm holding it up if you guys are watching the YouTube video right now. It's so cute. I mean, it is made for these little cute boutique gift store places. I loved the packaging. I loved how everything was set up. And I also loved that you very smartly included the measuring spoon with it. Tell me, whose idea was that, Christy? Because
It was mine. I mean, honestly, people don't even necessarily have an eighth of a teaspoon in their little set sometimes. And so the fact that this idea, just what I think a lot about is how to make it easier on people, because when you're changing their routine, it, just one little problem, or like, you know, if I have to go even to if I do have an eighth of a teaspoon, but I have to go open that drawer and get it out, I'm less likely to actually use it, right? And so if you put a cute little spoon right in your coffee bar and right next to your coffee dust, then you're going to be a lot more likely to use it. And so I think about that from a customer experience perspective, but our goal is to, and I've just crystallized this recently, is to help a million people have healthier, more joyful mornings, whether that is, using coffee dust or your own spices. So how, helping people get over those humps of like, okay, this stuff is good for you. Cinnamon is amazing for you. Cardamom and turmeric and all of these spices have real scientific evidence behind them that they're good for your body in some way. And so how do we help people change their habits a little bit, even if they're not buying coffee dust, just using the spices that they've got at home?
yeah, and you know what? We forget that so much. It's like there's a reason why spices were actual currency back in the day, hundreds of years ago. I mean, people like fought wars over
Yeah.
things like cinnamon and stuff like that. It made a difference to people. And it's funny now we're just like, yeah, cinnamon, whatever, we can buy it anywhere. But it really does add such a different flavor profile and a different feeling to the coffee too, which I loved because, like, again, I don't like sugary drinks. I don't want syrups. All of the big brand coffee shops out there, which I won't even mention because I refuse to give big brands free promos. If somebody even says to me, "Oh, I'm going to such and such place, I'll buy you a coffee. What do you want?" I'm like, "No, I don't even want a free coffee from that place because they're so revolting to me." I'm like, "I don't need any of that stuff that's in there. I prefer to have my own cup of coffee that I make or my cup of tea and know what's in it and just to have that little bit of kick, which is so nice."
Yeah.
And you're right, changing somebody's behavior can be very complicated. So I did love, because when I first looked at the package, I didn't notice the spoon at first. And I read the directions and it said an eighth. And I thought to myself, like you, do I even have an eighth teaspoon somewhere? And then, of course, I opened the box. I'm like, oh, God, thank God she included it. I don't have to dig through my drawer. And then it also made me realize how much a little goes a long way. People who don't know what an eighth of a teaspoon looks like, it is freaking tiny. And then you look at it and you look at these little, again, I'm holding up the package, these little tiny containers, and you think to yourself, oh my God, I only need a tiny, tiny bit in my coffee. So it lasts forever. So listen, I love the fact that it is cost economic. It's not like making me spend $9 on a coffee. Can we please talk about that? I mean, how much coffee is these days?
Yeah.
Like going to like even get a latte at somewhere in LA, no lie, you get a regular 12-ounce latte, it is $9.50.
And I get it. I mean, these little coffee shops are getting squeezed because the price of coffee beans is like just soaring over time, right? In the last year, I think it's doubled, right? And I feel for them, but I recognize that a lot of people are not going to be able to afford this habit that is very much ingrained in them. And so I do love that, hey, you can go make something fun. It doesn't have to just be drip coffee. You can make drip coffee and still add some coffee dust to it and make it feel a little more special, right?
Yes, and of course, as I learned from your website, you can actually use this coffee dust in a lot of different things. You can add it to baking, right? You can add it to cocktails if you want it. There's all kinds of different uses. You can add it to your teas. And I love the cross functionality of it as well, instead of it just being the one time, one shot kind of thing, which I imagine as you were developing the product more, was it other people coming to you and saying, hey, I'm adding it to my pancake batter that you're like, oh,
Oh,
that's a great
for
idea.
sure. Yeah, I had one customer at the farmer's market. I remember so clearly. He said, I love Captain's Dust, and I just want you to know that I used it as a dry rub for chicken the other day, and it was amazing. And I was like, "Are you kidding me?" Just
You're
so
like, that's
surprised. And
great. You could use it in your cooking too. I didn't even think of that. That's an awesome, and
totally.
that's
And I
great. I
take it
mean,
with us camping. And so it's so fun because this way I can, camping pancakes and camping oatmeal can be so bland. And often we don't bring a spice rack with us when we're out car camping or something. And so to bring, even just a little tin this size will spice that up, and it's just so fun. And for your coffee, it's so multifunctional that it works really well for travel too. Like, throw it in a pocket and make bad airplane coffee better and hotel coffee and things like that. Yeah.
yeah. And speaking of fun, your social media is so fun. And I love that you've really been the face of it. You're in a lot of the different reels, really explaining it, having fun with your husband, talking about your morning coffee routines. Was that intentional that you're like, I'm going to put myself out there and be part of the marketing plan?
Yeah, I mean, I think it just sort of ended up that way because it takes some explanation, and I don't mind making a complete fool of myself. So I will just video anything and just be like, well, here's what, what's an example? We got in front of a buyer one time years ago. It was probably our first year or two in business, and it was a big store, and she was really excited about it. And I sent her a whole bunch of free coffee dust, and I followed up with her and said, how was it? And she's like, well, it probably would have been great, but the tins, some of the tins exploded in shipping, and all I got was like a package full of like cinnamon and mixed spices. And I thought, oh my God. But that's the kind of thing that I think is really fun to post on social media, like these fails that it's like, not everything is rainbows and ponies and unicorns, you guys, and just like being out there and, I often will dress up as a coffee dust fairy in a tutu that a friend made for me. And just like it's fun and it's a really creative outlet for me, I've found over time too. So I don't know how strategic it was, but it just sort of landed there that I tend to be the face of it and I have a good time doing it. So I'll keep doing it for a while.
Well, I mean, definitely, Christy, with your personality, it's a natural. You're obviously very comfortable and you're very well spoken about the product. So you're like, hey, I can be the one to talk about it. Now, I did also notice in your Instagram that you've actually done some corporate events where they used your product as one of the giveaways. And I'd love the little tag that came with it that said, get compliant and get caffeinated. I think it was for some data or cybersecurity company or something. So, how did a partnership like that come about? And how would a company contact you or be able to approach you about maybe if they wanted to have you at a corporate event like that?
Yeah, I that was an idea from a customer. And as is true with so many things, right? So the original idea of coffee dust, putting cayenne into coffee dust, some of the blends, some of the blend names, and now the trade show giveaway product. These are ideas from other people, and I'm just good at executing stuff, right? So this is an idea from not even actually, it wasn't even a customer. It was somebody who found me through ChatGPT, which that opened up a whole new door. Yeah. And she said, I want to use your little mini tins as a giveaway at a trade show. Can we do that? And my first reaction was like, the lead time on these tins, getting them pre-printed and everything, it's going to take months. You're going to have to order 5,000 of them. That's not a great idea. But then it occurred to me, like we could stick it to a little business card and you can print anything on a business card. And so that's what we did. And she loved it. It worked great. The people loved it at the trade show. And now I spend some time on LinkedIn every week because people are always talking about swag on LinkedIn. So just like letting people know that this is a thing. And I think as we get into more and more trade shows, people are going to start to see like, oh, they're always looking for something fun and unique and like not another stress ball, not something that you throw out, something that you can actually use, maybe even at the show, right? And so that is what it's kind of turned into. So people just find me now. I don't know. And so there's a place one of our product pages is for custom printed coffee dust. And we'll just, we have a whole system of, you design the little card and our information's on the back. And it's a great way to not only for them to give something unique, but it's kind of like a marketing thing for us too. Lots of people get to try it. And then, we end up with new customers, which is also a win.
No, that's what I was going to say. It's the perfect marketing mix there because you are just being new customers are being introduced to you right there, and it is something fun and unique. And I have been to more than my share of trade shows and events. And you're right, they're always giving away stuff that I'm immediately going to throw out. I don't need stress balls. I don't need another USB drive. I don't need another pen. All these things that they're thinking, we'll put our name on it. It's like, no, I'm throwing all that stuff away, or I'm not even bothering to take it at this point.
Right.
But for
Yeah.
food-based swag, that's always super popular. That's why, of course, for anybody who is doing marketing out there, if you have a table at an event, you always have candy or something because people are always going to walk over and take candy. And then they'll say, what's your business about? In fact, I just was volunteering at an event over the weekend for one of the local charities I work with. And I was like, oh, well, do you have candy for the table? They're like, what are you talking about? I'm like, what? We have to have candy. And I'm the one, I brought a big bowl candy and they were like, wow, you're right. This like really attracts people. So, any businesses out there, listen, you want something like coffee dust because people are definitely going to want to talk to you. They'll remember it. They will take it home and they're also going to remember your business. So stop
Yeah.
giving away the stuff that are going to end up in landfills. We don't need any more of that. Which brings me to my next topic. Let's talk about the sustainability aspect of it, because obviously you're sourcing specific spices that you want to use, but also in your packaging, you're using these metal tins and you're very smartly using, I'd say, sensible size packaging that isn't going to go for a lot of waste. So tell me, was that always part of your plan, or how are you balancing, your need to get your product out there and also have your own sustainability and ESG goals that you're not, because I can already tell you don't want to put any more in the landfills than I do, girl.
No.
So
No. Yeah, I am so with you. And that is one of our core values as Coffee Dust is do the right thing. That's do the right thing for each other and for our community and our suppliers and our customers, but also in our environment, right? And these tins were used to go out just like as is, and they're recyclable or even better reusable, right? Put little, you can put whatever, like little craft things in there. Or even these, I have a lot of people who've started doing like putting their pills in them when they travel and things like that, right? So reuse the tins or recycle them. But at first I was like, no plastic, no plastic, no plastic. And I told you the story of the coffee dust exploding, and there was no getting around doing like a little heat shrink. Now, I have plans for like a paper tube that won't need that anymore, and that will hopefully be next year. But what I found over time is sometimes I make a few compromises. Like there's this plastic window, right, in the sampler pack, which I'm not huge on, but I think you need to see what's in it because people don't know what coffee dust is yet. But over time, the plan is we're going to get rid of all of that plastic. And any plastic we do get from suppliers and things like that, we have Ridwell where we are, which like can take all of that. So I spend a decent amount of time recycling that stuff too, if anything that we can, so that the stuff actually going to the landfill is very, very small, because that is a very big deal to me.
Absolutely. It's not just being the Pacific Northwest, me being in LA. It's like just recycle as much as we can. In fact, we had a lovely gentleman on the show months ago who, Seymour Bettis, who was talking to us about his company, Soul Recycling, which is helping businesses to recycle better, because what he was pointing out is, recycling in a lot of ways is not what people think. If your area is not set up to recycle properly, it does just all end up in a landfill. And we sometimes are misled thinking, oh, we're doing the right thing, and it's not being recycled. So I think you're right. We need to start from a place of not creating that waste, and then you don't have to worry about, is it recycled correctly? Now,
Yeah.
with that said, you're right about the tins. They could be used for so many things. I am a crafter. I have way more gemstones around my home than I will ever be able to use anything for. But again, I would use these little tins to be able to store these little gems to do whatever crafting I'm doing. I'm just glitter girl. I'm just going to put it out there. If there's glitter, it's around me. My poor dog had glitter on him the other day. I was like, sorry, that's just the world we live in. But with that said,
Stefanie, I'm sorry that I didn't talk to you a few months ago, because for our fourth birthday this year, we made Captain's glitter dust, and we added edible glitter to Captain's, which was our first flavor. That was like our little 4-year anniversary. If I have any extra, I'll send you some.
I was just going to say, look around the office. I know you have at least one half tin. I need that in my life.
Okay.
It has been my goal for years to be able to ingest glitter, so then when I am going to the bathroom, it is also glitterful. I am that girl. I'm just going to say it. But okay, so back to the business side. You have now been rolling along for about 4 years, right? Because you started during the
Yep.
pandemic. What's next for Coffee Dust? Like, what do you have your eye on? Where do you see it going? Because like you said, you now were able to finally quit your job this year. What is your goal then for the next, iteration of Coffee Dust? Are we going
Yeah.
global here?
Yeah, we have shipped internationally. We got written up in Tim Ferriss's newsletter in June, which went out to 1.5 million people. And out of that, there was a guy who I'm talking to now who maybe wants to import this to Korea, because the coffee culture in Asia is like crazy. Their coffee shops are open 24/7. People are at them all night. And so just, I don't know if it'll go anywhere, but absolutely, I'm willing to go international. It always surprises me that how much shipping people are willing to pay to like get some coffee dust across the pond. But it is also just, our what I really want is to help people have healthier mornings. And that may be partially coffee dust. I want to get the word out certainly more. We have been on Amazon now just about a year, so that helps sort of just make it more accessible to people, and is a fun way for people to find us. And it's such a giftable thing, especially this little variety pack is such a good way to do that. And so, I think getting the word out, not just about coffee dust, but also how good these spices are for your body, right? And that's my new focus on some of our marketing content is, do you know how good the stuff is? Do you know how good cinnamon is for like sort of stabilizing your blood sugar, for example, or for turmeric and black pepper to help, reduce your inflammation and things like that. So that's my new kind of, we've done a slight pivot to just help people understand how good this stuff is for you.
I love that you brought that up, because yes, it's true. Before we had pharmaceutical drugs, we had herbs and we had spices, and this was medicine to people. And we've really gotten away from that. And now it's almost skeptical when people are like, oh, well, you just, take a turmeric pill and it helps with inflammation. They're like, how is that possible? Because it wasn't made by a big drug company, so I do not believe you. But I personally have been actually taking turmeric pills for years. So when I saw it in the coffee, I was like, oh, it's one of my favorite spice profiles. And you mentioned cardamom earlier. Let me tell you, girl, I love cardamom and I use it in a lot of my cooking, but I also do a lot of Indian cooking. So, being again, a vegan, a formerly a vegetarian, it just kind of lended itself to me. And it's also super easy. And also, I mentioned earlier, I grew up on the East Coast. I never had exposure to anything that was remotely exotic like that. And I moved to LA and I'm like, oh my God, how did I not know about Indian food? So anyway, with that said, I like to try anything that's a little bit different, definitely healthy, and of course, vegan and cruelty free, because that is how I live my life. So with that said, Christy, it has been a joy to talk to you. But before I let you go, please tell people how they can find you and how they can taste coffee dust for themselves.
Yes. So best place to find all of our products is VashonCoffeeDust.com. You can also just go to Coffee Dust. It'll redirect you if you don't know how to spell Vashon. You can find us on all the socials at Vashon Coffee Dust. And we're on TikTok and Instagram and Facebook and all that nonsense. And and you can find us on Amazon too.
That's awesome. And of course, if they do go to your website and they sign up to your mailing list.
Yes, thank you. You asked me to remind people about this and then I forgot. Yes, if you sign up for our mailing list, you get 10% off at our website. And then we will send coupons with your first order too. If you buy the sampler pack, you'll get a coupon for like if you want to order more, either sampler packs or bigger tins once you figure out like what size you love. So.
Oh, and I love when you mentioned about doing the flavor contest too. As we've seen with other bigger brands out there, that's like a huge thing. People love to be able to concoct their own flavor. So I'd like to see that again in the future. Let me know. And of course, add glitter to everything. I'm your girl. I will buy all the products. With that said, Christy, it was so much fun to talk to you. Thank you for sharing your story. Can't wait to see what is next for you and Vashon. And, perhaps actually having glitter in my coffee at some point.
Thanks for having me, Stefanie. I appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to the Wild Party Podcast. If you're an entrepreneur or professional who would like to be on this podcast, please visit boomtownmarketing.com and click on podcast. We believe that every business has the potential to change the world for good, and we want to support our community to help make the world more ethical, compassionate, and sustainable for all future generations to come. And if you're looking to build your business, no matter what level you're at now, request your free marketing consultation at boomtownmarketing.com and click Get Started.